Kamu bisa apa? Lihat ya. Oke, kita bantuin cari papi mami kamu.
Hello everyone, welcome to Asia Forward. This is a podcast series highlighting forward-thinking ideas on US and Southeast Asia business. I'm Ledy Simarmata, and this time we're coming to you from Jakarta, Indonesia. We're taping this episode in the headquarters of Visinema Pictures. Visinema is the company behind the success of the movie Jumbo, an Indonesian animated film that last year, in 2025, became the highest grossing animated film in Southeast Asia. So, what does it take for Indonesian films to go global? And why should US investors, companies, and collaborators pay attention to Indonesia's film industry? Joining me today is Angga Dwimas Sasongko, a film director, a producer, and the founder and CEO of Visinema Pictures. Hello, Angga.
Hi, Ledy.
How are you?
Great.
How's your day?
It's been busy, but I'm happy that you come here and invite me to the podcast.
We're very grateful. Thank you very much for having us here.
Yeah.
I came all the way from America, and then this has been just so nice, being in your beautiful office. So let me start with the success of Jumbo. It's phenomenal. It is fantastic. How do you feel about the success of Jumbo?
The success of Jumbo is the optic that created by the expectation of the industry, but not my goal. Because for me, to become the highest grossing animation in Southeast Asia, if we use Formula One as,
An analogy?
analogy, maybe Jumbo and Visinema now will just win the pole position.
Oh, okay.
We're not even start the race.
Okay.
Because the goal itself, when I started Jumbo in 2018, or even back in 2008, I'm not looking for box office. I'm not looking for highest grossing film label. I'm looking for the game needs to be changed.
Right.
What is that? We need to be able to get into Indonesian life.
Right.
Our IP, our story, our characters. Therefore, the main goal is to create an evergreen IP from
Right.
Indonesia
Right.
to Indonesia, to Indonesian. So, to have such a big number of audiences,
Yes.
box office claim, and so on, I think it's an advantage for us to
It's like a bonus to you.
No. Advantage to reach our goal to
I see.
create more evergreen IPs from Indonesia to Indonesians and hopefully for the world.
Yes.
So Jumbo is our first attempt to create this evergreen IP.
Okay.
What does it mean with evergreen IP? First, character and story that can live across generation.
Right.
Today, Toy Story
Yes.
released in the
United States.
in the United States, in
Yeah.
Indonesia, in the cinema,
Indonesia too, yeah.
in the cinema. I remember when I was a kid watching that movie, and now I'm planning to take my son watch together.
Right.
And since the Toy Story 4, for example, my son already engaged with the story. So it's already cross generations.
Yes.
And that's what I want with all Visinema work, that we can produce, create characters, story that beyond myself, beyond this generation.
That can outlive us.
We still need to work harder to make sure that this IP or this IP's character, story not end up only in one moment, but also can be translate into other mediums and can live in everyday's life of Indonesian, at least for Indonesian at this moment, because it's important to know that to aim big, we need to step one step at a time.
Yeah. Just looking at the statistic, because I was curious. The budget for Jumbo was about $3 million. And the revenue was about 24. Gross revenue about 24 million US dollars.
10 times, almost 10 times.
Right. So commercially, this is a big success,
Yeah.
right? And then, like you've said, almost 11 million on ticket sales. And then at the time, Frozen 2 was released. And then Jumbo surpassed Frozen, which is already
More than double.
right.
Yeah.
Frozen is already, like a brand, Frozen 1, Frozen 2, and then there's a merchandise, talk about IP. It's a pretty successful brand. So what do you take from business perspective? What does this sign to you in terms of like where the market is heading?
I think we need to anticipate that the shift of our audience behavior, the trend. If we take a look on what's happening the last 3 years, I think local content now become, something that really thriving because I don't know why, even though we exposed to the world easily now with the social media, but especially in Indonesia, the local content now is more become preferable for Indonesian audience, and it's also happening in some other market like Korea, China, Japan, India. Now Indonesia become strong in local in local content. I think because at the end, when the market getting mature, the market not look something inspiration, but want something aspiration, that relevant to their lives, have strong proximity to their identity. I think those kind of
and their cultures maybe,
and the most important thing, I think, when the market more mature, they have more courage to find themselves in, not seeing things, with distance, but they want more closer to what they watch, to what they read, to what they experience in the cinema, in the books, on the plate. Right. So I think those kind of things give us chance more to imagine, to try to experiment with new things, new approach of storytelling, to give our audience better experience in terms of entertainment and storytelling.
Yeah, and Indonesia is rich with wisdoms and story and folklores.
Exactly. We just need to be more courageous in terms of trying, trying to
present that to the
at least for our audience, and then hopefully, if we win in our market, we can project our product into global
market,
to the regional market and into global market, because I don't see any market or any nation that has substantial creative and cultural product before they win their own market. Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but Jumbo has been distributed in 40 countries.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You're too humble.
Because it's unplanned.
Oh, so it's more
unplanned.
organic. It's
Yeah,
like
it's more organic.
Oh.
It's more organic because at that time when we started Jumbo, what we want it's only how to deliver the best animation that we can deliver as Indonesian animators.
Yes.
Just create something that you know that this is the best that we can do. Even though the budget itself, it's only like 3%, 5% of Hollywood animation budget, right? 3 million US dollars compared to Toy Story 5, which reported budget was 250 million.
Right.
So 3 million is nothing, right? So so don't think about it.
Yeah.
Don't think too much. Just create the best one. Not only in terms of technology or visual, but also the storytelling. And then we delay 1 year because we need to finish it better.
Right.
And then we went to some market like Cannes and Busan. Just a nice try, because we already have the product.
Yes.
So we want to try like testing the market, testing the water. And then one French company that very savvy in animation distribution came to us and they became the representative of the movie as a sales agent.
Wow, and this is just like meeting through
so we don't plan
network,
and we learn.
Right,
we learn a lot. We take a lot of notes from the experience. Release it in 40 countries, and for the next upcoming projects, we will take that notes to create something that more appeal for international market. So Jumbo it's not something we designed for international market, but then international market came,
responded very well
to
the movie.
But of course I have to be honest, a lot of notes.
Yes.
We do our postmortem, so we know what went wrong. We know that we need to improve.
Yeah.
And we believe that the sky is the limit.
So United States not yet in these 40 countries.
Not yet.
So what's the plan for the US? You gotta get Jumbo to the US, Angga.
But the problem is if we don't get distributor, we cannot enter that market.
Is it something that you want to do?
At this stage, I think Jumbo it's already not in the position of attempt to market, especially the one of the mature and biggest market in the world, like the US. But US market will be our next target for our upcoming projects.
How do you see the state of Indonesian film industry today, both creatively and commercially? Where are we? Where is Indonesia?
Okay, we have to see it in a different perspective. We cannot see Indonesia film industry only from one point of view. For example, I see that put it in the perspective of creative economy is too shallow. We need to put Indonesian film industry as a cultural economy.
Okay. Cultural economy.
Yeah. Why is that?
Why is that?
If the US sees the film industry as the creative economy, they don't do a lot in terms of public policy.
Okay.
They don't do a lot in terms of diplomacy because it's cultural. So it's a It's a weapon,
Yeah.
right? It's a leverage. It's not only product.
Right.
It's
right. Yeah.
culture. It's
Yeah.
represent
Right.
the United States of America.
Yeah.
So
Part of the
that's-
identity.
Yeah, part of the, the identity. So the mindset will be different.
I see.
It's not only the numbers,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
not only how many workers work in that field.
Yes,
It's not
yeah.
only, but more than that. So like we need to do that in Indonesia before it's too late. If we think about education, we cannot only think about the building or how many cities that own film school, but the quality of the lecturer,
I see.
right? That's one point.
Yeah.
And then we need to revamp our film law, which now already outdated. We need to know how to deal with the digital. Are we going to let it go, the cinema going experience, or we want to preserve it as as the key window for Indonesian movies? So we need more involvement and action, especially from the local government, to see that film can represent their identity.
Right.
It can create, self determination.
Sure. Yes.
So they want to buy local products.
Sure. Yeah.
So if we think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it as a cultural economy, it will open up a lot of doors. Now AI give you ability to create content even faster.
How do you
even
feel about AI?
easily, more easily.
Yeah.
So what we do is how to coexist.
Yeah.
So if we cannot stop the penetration, the needs of internet, the development of technology and digital, that's why this cinema going experience needs to be also faster to grow.
Right.
And for me, AI is inevitable. AI could drive more productivity
Okay.
in filmmaking
Right.
as a tools,
Yes.
not as engine of creation.
Yeah.
So I'm imagine in the best scenario, 1% for me, for example, if I work in CGI, usually I spend 1 month only sitting in front of my computer to rotoscope.
Right.
And now that work can replace by AI. So I can use my 30 days of working thinking about something else to create something.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the most ideal scenario, AI will replace uncreative work. So the people that usually work for the uncreative job can
Yeah.
be more creative.
Right.
I still believe that if we want to penetrate international market, there are 3 type of films that give us chance.
Okay.
First, animation,
Okay.
because it's easily to change the language,
Okay.
to dub.
Yeah.
And now with AI, we can easily change the
The movement.
the mouth movement.
Yeah.
Second is action, because it's fun. Somehow, maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but violence is universal. Right? So, and the third one, I think horror.
Okay.
Because fear, it's also universal language.
I see.
And it happened to some country that penetrate and first exposure came from horror movie,
Right.
like Japan
Right.
and
Yes.
Thailand.
Yes. Yeah.
So we need good horror movie, but as you know, even good food will be unhealthy if you eat too much.
Too much.
Right?
So too much horror movies.
Yeah, too much is not good.
Too much is not good.
But if we can transform our passion, our ability, and the capital to make less, but the quality, we double the quality.
Right.
I'm not surprised if the next 2-3 years, directors like Joko Anwar can perform well in Hollywood. And I think he's doing in the right direction at this moment.
Yeah.
We try always to
Push the boundary.
push the boundaries.
Yeah. No, you mentioned streaming service because that's how people consume movies these days. In America itself, there's like multiple streaming service. You can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
So how does Indonesian film industry take benefit of that, I would say, venue or avenue to break into global markets? So has Indonesia, in your opinion, has taken a good benefit of the opportunity?
I think the presence of Netflix, particularly in Indonesian market, because now the global streaming, it's only Netflix that operate in Indonesia,
Here, yeah.
helps a lot for us as a storyteller and filmmaker to reach international audiences, to give us exposure to their subscribers across the globe.
Yeah.
It helps Indonesia and us as a storyteller
Yeah.
to be more recognizable.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the benefit, and that's why I always said that the cinema going experience and the streaming must be coexist. We need to find the equilibrium for it, and not eating each other,
Right.
because we need both.
Yes.
We need both. We need streaming in terms of reaching the audience that unreachable from the cinema, but the cinema also give us opportunity to show unique experience of watching our film
Yeah.
and presenting the story.
Yeah.
So both, I think, needs to be coexist.
Yeah. Well, it's I think it's, like as the diaspora in the United States, I'm very thankful for the streaming services because I can watch a lot of Indonesian
Exactly.
movies through streaming
You-
services.
like a person like you is what I said. The audience that unreachable from through
Cinema
through
experience, yeah.
cinema experience. But if you have access to cinema, I will be very happy if you watch it in cinema, because I
Yeah.
prepare the movie for cinema experience.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
something. How
think
to
that's-
put it in
yeah.
the best scenario.
How do you as a CEO, how do you balance running Visinema as a creative engine, film production, but it's also commercially successful enterprise? Like how do you balance those two?
Because we don't choose.
Oh,
We don't
explain.
choose. Yeah, we don't choose. We don't choose what's art, what's commerce. We don't choose what's local, what's global. We don't choose artist or entrepreneur. We start in the center. We believe that there is a way to become binaries in
Right.
terms of how we running and operate Visinema as creative platform. For example, like what you experience with Jumbo, we don't choose this film. It's for kids or for adults. We don't choose. We start from the beginning. We want this work for everyone. That's why it's need to be appeal for the children and also resonate for the adults.
Right.
So we don't choose what's for festival, what's for cinema, cinema commercial.
Right.
No, we believe that good story at the end of the day will touch people's heart.
So talking about that, we are in Asian continent. There are other countries that I would say more advanced when it comes to make their films known, specifically about films or a drama. Let's say Korea. Let's just okay. I know this is probably talked many times, talking about the success of South Korea, but it is a successful industry, right? So is there anything that we should learn from other Asian countries?
Of course.
What is it that you, like, I desperately need Indonesians, whoever related to this industry, to learn these things? What is it?
For example, like what we can learn from Korea,
Yeah.
right? It's very designated. It's not an organic growth and organic attempt. For example, for me, BTS is not a coincidence. It's a very well planned
Yeah.
how they can become not only global icon, but Korea representation to the world.
Yes.
And that's why in Visinema, we believe in the process. We want to enjoy the process. We're not chasing for short-term success like box office. So the process is more important for us because we learn from the process, not from the result. So I think there's a lot of other countries, especially in the region, that we can learn from India.
India, Bollywood.
From Bollywood, for
Yeah.
example, how they embrace their own
Culture. Yeah.
and local market.
Yeah.
They focus on
Their local wisdom.
their local
Yeah.
wisdom, their local stories, their local way of storytelling.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
become their superpower.
Yeah.
So I think we need.
Because no one else can make that like them.
Yes.
What is the opportunity here, if you can, share for U.S. American movie studio, American companies, American investors, why they should pay attention? Because I believe, my theory, they should. But in your own words, why they should pay attention to Indonesia?
First, I think we have talents that capable doing fantastic production. And if in the US production the cost is very high, you can come here
Yes.
and make your film here and work with our crew, and you will substantially reduce your production costs. Or you can invest in Indonesian company and develop the market, because our market is at very early stage. If you go to other markets in the region, you will either you will go into market that already mature, that the opportunity to grow is limited,
Yeah.
or you go to market that doesn't have the scale. But in Indonesia, you have both.
Right.
You have early stage and you have scale. That's if you want to see Indonesia as a investment potential.
What is the strongest opportunities? We have multiple genres. We are a big market. You mentioned all the strong points of Indonesian film industry. But if you can give advice, what is the type of project that have you seen successful?
I think like I said,
Yeah.
animation, horror,
Okay.
action that can combine actors, language, and perception in one story,
Okay.
there will be opportunity to make a good business out of it. You know, for example, if I do math for you, like you can create a lot of things happen in a movie with $5 million US, and you bring two actors, well-known actors in that movie, and find the right script, the right story, and you sell the distribution rights to one of major studios in Hollywood. Maybe you can get 10 to 15 million, and then you get Indonesian audience, and you get OTT for Southeast Asia, OTT for worldwide. Maybe from 5 millions, you can get net revenue around maybe 20.
Okay.
It's very possible.
Okay. Well, this is a very good technical advice. Thank you very much. I'm counting in my head. This is the last question. Thank you very much for being so passionate, answering this is the last question. We are in Asia Forward. We always ask this question to all of our guests.
Okay.
It's called Asia Forward Thinking question. So if we think about, let's say, 5-10 years from now, what is the prospect of Indonesian films in the global stage? Or how do you want to see it in the global stage?
I hope that in the next 5 years, we will see 1 or 2 or 3 Indonesian horror film become a legendary release in a global market. Or in the next 5 years, I hope that there will be the next Iko Uwais and Yayan Ruhian or Joe Taslim as Indonesian representation in action genre. Or in the next 5 years, hopefully Visinema can be Southeast Asian Ghibli that not only release our film in the global market, but also have or create new space for that, for new kind of storytelling, for new kind of perspective, create new perception that this is the story from Southeast Asia. And it's worthy to watch, to enjoy, to entertain, and you can be a fan too.
Angga, thank you very much.
Thank you so much
for this conversation. I learned a lot from
privilege.
you. Thank you very much for having us here. And hopefully when I come to Jakarta or when you come to New York, we'll have this conversation again. And all the best for Visinema.
Thank you so much.
And the wonderful team that you have here.
Thank you.
That's our episode for today. Thank you very much for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the conversation. The full episodes can be viewed on YouTube and also Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, and Amazon. Don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, asia4.org. Find out how you can also support this podcast. So I'll see you again next time. I'm Ledy Simarmata from Jakarta, Indonesia this time. See ya. Bye-bye.